Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call the February 9th Greater Clark County School Board of Trustees meeting to order. If Renee would please note that all school board members are in attendance. You would all stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no board salutes tonight, so board, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. The agenda has passed. We need approval now to moving forward.
No, we have that question.
Oh, you got the questions. Questions or vote? You guys okay with it? Sorry. Trying to hustle it along. Everybody okay? No questions, comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That moves right along. Now we need to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a motion for it?
I move we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approval minutes passes.
John, can you try to talk in your mic more?
I can. I can do better than that. How's that?
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Now we have goal strategies and student achievement coming up. We have an academic presentation by Dr. Kim Hartledge.
Good evening, board. I'm so excited to stand before you tonight and talk about some good news. This is certainly something to celebrate, and it is a reflection of the hard work of our students and our staff and everyone that's involved with Greater Clark. Tonight we're going to share with you our graduation rates. As you know, through our strategic planning, our district mission is to prepare students for lifelong success. And this brings me great joy because I see it. It starts with our preschoolers and our kindergartners, and then this reflects that overall completion and accomplishment at the end. And we focus everything on our core values, that we want to have safe, clean, engaging learning environments. We want staff who feel supported and empowered to continue to improve their instructional practice. We want to make certain that we make good decisions so that we have resources available to support the whole child and to maximize learning. And ultimately, we are held accountable for continuous improvement. Graduation is that ultimate measure of accountability for all of us. And to earn an Indiana diploma, we have certain requirements that we have to achieve. Students have to meet course and credit requirements. They also have to pass the graduation qualifying exam. Currently, the past few years, that has been the I-STEP test. And if they don't pass that, then they have the opportunity to complete the graduation pathways or they receive a waiver if they are unable to do that. So students between 2019 and 2022, they have graduation requirements, and they have 4 ways in which to do that. Passing that GQE, it's currently the I-STEP, that will be changing with the cohort of the class of 2022-23. That will be the SAT, will take the place of that. Or they can successfully complete a grad pathways coursework. If they do not do either one of those, then they are granted a waiver. There are 4 different types of diplomas that a student can achieve. The first being the Core 40 diploma. This has been in place since 2007. A student must earn 40 state credits across all content areas listed there for you. Or they can achieve a general diploma, which is also 40 credits, but it does not include additional math and science courses. There must be an opt-out option discussed with the students, and then they create a specific plan that is appropriate for that student. We work very hard to encourage our students to reach for a Core 40 with Technical Honors Diploma or an Academic Honors Diploma. For the Technical Honors, they have to achieve all requirements of the Core 40, 6 credits in college and career prep courses, and they are striving to achieve a state-approved certification or credential. They have to have pathway credits that are dual credits, a total of 6, and they have to earn a C or better and a cumulative GPA or better in all of those areas. And they have minimum scores through an academic component. Some examples of that are the AccuPlacer or the WorkKeys assessment. In this program, they, instead of the fine arts and languages, they enroll in those credentialed classes or the certification classes. And then finally, the Core 40 with academic honors. These are very high requirements. This is a college prep course. We do have a funding implication associated with both the technical honors and the academic honors courses or graduates. This year we received $347,000 into our budget for the number of students who achieved this level of diploma. So the academic honors, they are required to achieve all the requirements of the Core 40 plus 2 additional advanced math credits. They are responsible to earn 6 to 8 world language credits and a fine arts component as well. They have to earn a C or better in all of those courses, and they have to maintain a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or better. And they have options for completing either AP dual credit courses or minimum composite scores on either the ACT or the SAT. If students are unable to achieve that grad pathway or the academic component, the GQE, they then can seek a waiver. There is an attendance requirement component in testing attempts. In Greater Clark, we work very, very hard to avoid that option. We want to get our students set in a pathway that's appropriate for them. Our counselors and teachers work very, very hard to monitor our students' achievements and to make sure that they get on the right track. They have those conversations with them early on in high school, and our academy infrastructure certainly helps to support these opportunities. So having said that, we are thrilled to report that Greater Clark exceeds the graduation rates as compared to state averages in both public and non-public schools. Our 2020 graduation rate was 97.17%. It is the highest in our area, and you'll see some data to support that. And again, why is that? It's because we work so hard to catch those kids and discuss with them appropriate pathways that they are interested in, and we make certain that they are successful. This graph demonstrates our subgroup populations. They also have achieved higher graduation rates than those in our surrounding districts. This separates the groups by the various subgroups, and you can see Greater Clark is in blue, and we have achieved the highest rates for all subgroups across the Black, Hispanic, free and reduced lunch, special education. And we are the highest amongst Greater Clark, Silver Creek, Clarksville, and New Albany, Floyd County. The next graph represents the graduation rates of all high schools in our local region. And as you can see, I've color-coded Greater Clark's high schools in green. And we are very, very proud of these rates. Charlestown being the highest at 97.55%, followed by Jeffersonville at 97.08. Then we have Silver Creek in there, and New Washington Trails at 96.8. And you can see the various comparisons across the different high schools. And again, those are, we have very few waivers. We really work hard. We've worked hard to create that infrastructure so that students have many opportunities to be successful. On this graph, it outlines the total number of graduates, the STGEC, which is a statewide transfer of general education core, and that is the equivalent of 1 year of college credits. The associate degree is 2 years of college credits, but you can see the number of students. We had a total of 89 students graduate who actually had already achieved 1 year of college. The associate's degree is the equivalent of 2 years of college credits of 60 plus hours. We have 43 students. And then the rest of the graph is a breakdown of the academic honors, technical honors, both. They achieved both types of diplomas. The 4-year college plans, 2-year college plans, and the students in the military path. A total of dual credits earned in 2020 of 11,924. Our projections for this year are along those same lines. You can see the number of the students below who are also in line to achieve those same high number of credits and status amongst our graduates. And then our projections for 2021 and the number of dual credits that we believe our graduates will obtain come graduation time. And when you calculate those number of credits by an average of $200 per credit hour, that's the Ivy Tech cost. As you know, some colleges are way more than that. But just at that average rate, that's a savings of $2,283,800 from our students when they go on to college. So we're very proud of this success and believe that it's the outstanding work of our teachers and students and their families and the support of a wonderful board and all of our administrators, that they are dedicated to providing action plans for students, monitoring those, and making certain that they get the coursework they need in order to be able to be successful and graduate without those waivers. So that is put Greater Clark at the top of the scale when it comes to these rates, and we're very, very proud of those.
I just want to add a couple things. This is a K through 12 initiative. It's not just the high schools. It's all the way from top to bottom. And our teachers throughout each level do a great job of preparing our students, whether to pass the GQE or find a pathway that they can go into to complete a grad pathway for graduation. The fact that we have the highest graduation rates in this area, we also have the highest non-waiver graduation rates. When people ask me why that is, well, I think it's because of the academy model, because of the way we prepare our kids academically. We have a place for every kid in this district, and we make sure they get to that place for graduation. And our counselors, principals, especially at the high school level, do a great job of making sure a kid has a place, a pathway to go to. And so this is a very important metric, that is out there, and we're very proud of what we've produced, and we'll continue to do this work. I can tell you, the honors diploma, I believe it's $1,100 per student that we get extra funding per honors diploma. So we're always trying to push the needle on that and trying to get more kids to pursue that diploma. Obviously the hurdles are classes like Algebra 2, or chemistry. How do you get the kids through that hurdle, the tough class of Algebra 2? Well, you have to provide more intervention. You need to try to get them through that so that they can pursue that honors diploma. And those are things our high school principals are looking at all the time. Is which kids, and the counselors too, are right there knocking on the door at being able to get an honors diploma. And maybe they just have to go back and take a class or two so that they could get that honors diploma. You know, our counselors and principals are doing a really good job of identifying that. Even when a kid is a senior, you know, they look and see, you know, where a student may only have to go back and take one class because maybe they got a D, and all they need is a C in that class, and they have to go back and take it so that they can get that honors diploma. So it's really important. You know, and what we offer with dual credits, I think, is second to none in this area. If you combined over the last 2 or 3 years the number of students in Greater Clark that have earned the transfer gen ed certificate and also the associate's degree certificate, it's more than the other schools combined in terms of what our students have accomplished in dual credits and earning those certificates. So something to be very proud of. It's definitely something we want to support and continue in the district because it's a great thing for our communities to have a year or 2 years of college out of the way before they graduate from high school. It's an excellent thing for us to pursue and continue to pursue. So,
Is this data on our website?
Well, it's been shared and it's going to be
It's gonna be-
shared out through social media. It's
Okay.
after tonight, yes, it will be.
And the other question I have is about waivers. A couple years ago, actually several years ago, we discovered that we didn't have very many waivers, and the waiver process probably has changed since I've been in the business, but it was pretty difficult to get a waiver unless you did the things you needed to do, and you had the teachers that would sign off saying that you do have the skills in math and language arts in order to get this diploma. But did you look, how do we compare with our other schools around in the number of waivers? Because I think that can really skew the results. If a school corporation has lots of waivers, you know, that really is, to me, yeah, they graduated, but.
I will tell you the waiver, non-waiver data hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
I will tell you my past experience as a principal in the area at a high school is that our waiver rate was very low. You know, we worked hard at making sure that waiver rate stayed low. You know, the pathways certainly help with that.
I think so.
And without naming names, you're correct. There are some schools that you may see, you know, at the state level, their data says they had a 95% graduation rate overall, but 15 or 20% of those graduates were waiver
I
graduates.
think one year was 25.
It was.
Yeah.
You know, so
Wow.
we've done, as a district, done a really good job with that. So.
And, you know, our counselors start early on, at freshman year, and they get a feel of where the kids are, their annual meetings, and the relationships that they build. They really try to, instead of going that waiver route, they try to find them, you know what their interests are, what motivates them, plug them into a pathway where they can be successful, and they're excited about that. They want to come and they want to be successful in whatever that is. You know, engineering is probably one of our largest technical honors courses, but you know, we have so many things to offer, and our partnership with Crosser allows them to find that niche, what's appropriate for them.
Kim, is it, they have to have attempted that GQE 5 times, and then they have to have 95% attendance? Is it more than that, or you can get back to me if you're not sure?
I will be honest, I
I think
don't
it's
know those
3.
exact
3.
details. Mark, would
Yeah, I think it's
more
3.
They have to
specifically.
attempt it 3 times?
Yeah.
And take advantage of
Yeah,
remediation.
yeah, exactly.
And your attendance has to be 95% or better. And
Yeah,
I believe
so
you have
it's
to get
not-
a C average, C or higher to record classes.
Yeah.
Also,
It's
get that
not
waiver.
really changed too much.
Yeah.
But still, it's a change. All right, thank you.
For the attendance portion, are we including just only in-person attendance, or are we including e-learning?
That would be, you would be present.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
getting, just make sure.
Yeah, that would count as you being there.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Arledge. Next up would be a fund monitor report.
you say fun monitoring? Or-
Yeah.
No, it's fun for me, but
Yeah.
okay. If you want to have fun too, you're
Laura
welcome.
Bringer, yes, you go right ahead. And you're on.
Thank you, Mr. President, and respected members of the board. Tonight, I am providing to you a very simple, we're going to start simple with how we're going to monitor our funds throughout the year. And because we have done a lot of changing and corrections, we are at February 9th, so you will be getting this end of year report at this time. And so from what I wanted to tell you tonight is from this point forward, this report simply compares the cash ending balances, which has become the reason why we have to look forward, okay? Because we've compared to the past. So what will happen from this point forward is you'll start getting a monthly report of the 5 major funds that have the heaviest influence on running a school district, which of course are involved in your budget process: education, operation, rainy day, and your 2 debt services, pension and regular debt. And so what you will see is a very simple report of each fund, the revenue sources that come in that month, such as if it is a property tax fund, like operations, you'll see what those funds come and when they come in. And then you will see expenditures such as salary and benefits, if the fund qualifies to pay those, services, just like what your budget book says. You have in your budget book a sheet that has the pie graph that shows you salary, benefits, professional services, other services. So you'll see those expenses on a monthly basis, so that's what we will start doing. When you try to close a month and be done with a month, January, we're just now getting our bank statements, so you'll always be a little bit a month or 2 behind, which is okay, because when it comes to budget time, I'll get you right as close to the June 30th numbers, because that's how you build your future, okay? So tonight is, I just kind of want to go over these cash balances one more time, because when I reported to you early on our initial number that everybody wrote down for education fund was 1,080, but after balancing and finding out what needed to, payroll corrections at the end of the year, so you didn't get paid or whatever, those things have to be transitioned through. So your education fund did end with $1,075,000. Once you jumped out of operations, that ended $1,083,000. Your debt service fund is 4.497. You should run your finger across there and see how that cash balance has fluctuated. The reason why that's heavy is because you are entitled by the DLGF, required, let me say that, to get a certain percentage of next year's payments, so that way your cash flows will handle all of your debt payments that come in at the end of the year. Your pension debt, remember we had to do a correction to pay that, so we got additional appropriation because we transferred the cash in to shore up that payment. And then you were able to increase your rainy day fund slightly, because we had no cash in the other 2 that was going to help offset what was originally taken out of there to cover the health insurance, self-insurance fund. And that was $1.2 million. We were able to release about $600,000 into that fund to kind of help shore that up. And we'll try to continue to monitor that and get that back in there, as soon as we can. So this right here, as we continue to go on, you will see a high number come in January because of the TAW. That's one of our goals, is to build our cash balance so we no longer have to borrow that TAW. So when I'm asked, people look at our financial statements in June, they see a spike in cash. And that's because we put that TAW in there. And then it goes all the way down when I pay it back at the end of the year. So you'll see monthly amounts that are high, and then later on we see it going back down. So just so you have a little bit of background, and I'll just continue to remind you as we work through this, and we'll be able to expand when we need to. And as we continue to learn more about that budget, we can alter or add to these items.
Laura, I have a quick question. I don't know if you have the answer to this. you know, one of the fiscal indicators is that your cash balances have to be 8% or higher. You know, what does this move our percentage to? It was 2.9. We were well below that 8%. Does it move it to what, 3.5 or somewhere in there?
About 3.5%. Okay, so just to give you an indicator, that top line education should be reading about $6.5 million. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. And the operations, you should be able to cover your circuit breaker loss. So that's about a little over $4 million plus an operating. So if we set a target, of $5 million, okay, because the budget is $20 million in operations. So you should have $2 million for that, but you have to cover your circuit breaker because you don't know, like collections can fluctuate, and transfers from education coming in can fluctuate because of availability in education fund. So we're a little bit low on the target, hence we're starting down the road of the cost reduction plan to fix that. Remember, we set a target of $12 million for your rainy day fund, which probably takes everybody's breath away. But you have to build that, you have to build on that. So it's not like if I get $12 million all of a sudden, if somebody handed me $12 million in the operations fund, well, if somebody handed it to me, yes, I'd put it in a rainy day for you and we wouldn't have to worry about it. But if we say 12 million in operations, am I just going to wipe that out to get it into the rainy day just to prove that? No. Just like we're building now, we had that $600,000, $300 from the two main funds to go in to kind of help that process. So we do it very methodically and logically without putting additional pressure on any other funds. That's it, thank you. Yes, Bill.
Just to reiterate what Chuck, you told us last time too, but I think I'd like the public to realize it too.
Okay.
The savings plan that we're working on, next year, this time, we'll have December 2021 numbers that we can look at, and those are going to hopefully be bigger, and that will show that we've made progress on that.
Yes,
Okay.
so you should start seeing that progress heading, and you'll know that through the budget process because I'll be able to do projections on that.
Right.
But as you've experienced, when we do close a building, you still have to, take care of that building until you determine what you're going to do with it,
Right.
until it's no longer yours. Transitioning to different things. Another example, we know that we're going to see savings in our expense reduction in our utilities because we've engaged with that program to put in that energy savings. Well, like the first year, we would see a certain amount, so it just continues to build.
Right.
So what is important is though we understand that we're going to have some expensive stuff,
Sure.
right? So you won't hit that $6.5 million right out of the gate.
No.
And it takes.
We're working towards doing it. It's
Right.
like a savings account. It's like a personal family savings.
Right, so remember on this one, as we pointed out before, there was two major influential factors as to why you have $1 million in each fund. The first is that there was cost reduction that had already occurred. So if I said to you, close 2 buildings, if you recall that, right? So working through that, so we got a large payment on one of our buildings, which is the cash that you see in the operation. Part of that money is in it. However, we also have not spent a lot of money because we got to lean on the CARES Act. So that's kind of a one-time deal. So that's why you have that money. If we were able to pay all of our bills that were no longer held, right? We talked about that pretty much at the budget time. However, if we would have had to buy stuff that the CARES Act needed to, that wasn't available to use, you would be right back down to your $100,000 that you received.
And also, there was a lot of savings, that 3-month period where we weren't in school, in terms of utility savings,
Yes.
transportation, where we weren't running buses and those.
The middays, those extra field trips. Field trips, we didn't run field trips, and we're kind of not doing that now, so there's some savings there.
I just wanted the public to be able to know that come this time next year, you're going to be presenting another slide that's going to look very similar to that, if not the same. And that maybe it'll have different numbers on it, and have another column at the end, one on the roll off the other end. I want the public to be able to know this is the kind of thing, this is a real simple thing for us to look at pretty quickly and determine.
Correct. There's so many, the hard part is there's so many influential factors, such as, we were talking about the honors amounts. Those are evaluated, we're in the biennium for the state funding. So they come up with those set rates, and that's part of the formula. Our enrollment has to maintain or increase, right? We have to spend wisely. We don't spend just because we think we can, right? So remember, we talked about appropriation is the authority to spend. That's the blessing. But the job is to monitor that you have enough money to meet that authority. If you don't have enough cash to meet that authority, then you're backing down. And you should always get enough appropriation in case you ever have to handle growth, which you get more money in with more students, so that way you can handle it without going to additional appropriations all the time. You have that conversation with additional appropriations. So there's a lot of factors that influence that. So, and again, as we go through time and as certain benchmarks happen, I'll make sure I point those out so you know to look for it.
And then just to help I know you will, is to help the public to understand why a number is a certain number. When you do that, you're pretty good at it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
Thank you.
No passion.
I have a question also that doesn't report what you like, when Ms. Hartley's brought up. Do the college credits that we're able to offer and that we're doing a good job doing, are charter schools and private schools able to offer those under Indiana law, or how does that work?
Yes, they are. Some do. Yeah, they do.
I was just wondering if we have a sales point right there.
We do.
We have to sell ourselves.
I think we offer more, and a lot of schools don't have that complete associate's degree track. They have the 1-year transfer gen ed track, but they don't have the 2-year.
Okay.
Just the depth of what a student can get dual credit-wise. I mean, we've had students graduate from Jeff High in Charlestown and New Wash with 70 credits, by the end of their high school graduation. They walk into college, as a junior in college.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, board, we're on to the consent agenda. I'm sure we've all work with that. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Is there any conversation or questions, comments, concerns about the consent agenda as it's presented? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move it on. And the next wonderful thing, Fair Katrina, could you do our guest for buildings, please?
Absolutely. This month, we had several to Jeffersonville High School, in the Elks Lodge, friends of Brad Jacob, and Charlie Henderson. We have one to New Wash from North Park Healthcare Foundation for PE supplies and equipment. River Valley for dance team workshops, and Wilson Elementary from Another Donors Choose. Total this time is $6,685.02. I move that we accept these gifts to building as presented. And I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Thank you, Ms. Perkins, for the second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes to buildings has passed. Now let's move on to our action items. The first item is board policy updates, first readings. Ms. Geldmaker, thank you very much.
Thank you, Board, and I bring here for first reading this evening our most recent board policy updates. No action today. By law, there must be 30 days between readings, so I'll come back in April for request for approval. The updates have been shared with our cabinet members, also with Mr. Felix, our TCPA rep, And also I share a copy of the summary to each of you. So if you have any questions after reading that summary or any of the specific details of the policies between now and our board meeting in April, feel free to reach out to me. And again, there's no action needed today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the gentleman that presented our workshop the other day also our Neola guy?
Mr. Haley, yes, he is.
Very well.
I meet with him usually twice a year, that's
Okay.
how often the updates come out. So
That's very-
I did just meet with him a little bit ago.
I think we won on that.
He's a wealth of knowledge, that's for sure, very helpful. Thank you.
All right, the next item, action item will be the technical review committee for various County schools for 2021 design building projects.
Good evening, Board. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good evening.
This is the next step in the process for the Jeffersonville locker room project, the Charlestown High School locker room project, and the classroom expansion for Utica Elementary School. What we're asking tonight is approval of the TRC, the Technical Review Committee, and by statute, that must have an architect and an engineer. So on the list that you have in the letter that was attached, you do see at the bottom, Mr. Mark Beebe will be the registered architect, Mr. Tom Durkin will be the professional engineer, as well as the other voting members that you have before you. We have 2 non-voting members on the advisory committee, and if you have any questions, I can answer those. If not, we're asking for approval of the TRC.
Board, please.
Need a motion.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're right. No, you're
I thought you
right.
asked.
Board, can I get a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the members of the TRC committee as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Questions, comments, concerns? All righty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right.
Thank you, Board.
All right. The next item, action item, would be summer school staffing services agreement for 2021. Dr. Hartman.
Yes, we will once again partner with communities and schools as we prepare for summer school. Our program will be a 4-day program. It's a very brief program that will run June 1st through June 4th for 3rd grade students needing I-read remediation and credit recovery at the secondary level. 20 teachers will work 5 hours per day from 7:30 a.m. until 12:30 for 4 days for a total of 20 hours. Students will attend school 4 hours a day from 8 to 12 for a total of 16 additional hours of instruction. Teachers will earn $35 per hour for a total of $700. The total cost of the program is $14,000, and this is reimbursable from the state once the program is complete.
Awesome. Board, will have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the summer school staffing service agreement for 2021 with communities and schools.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions, comments, concerns? All righty, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. We're moving on to elementary athletic handbook.
Yes, Board, as you know, each quarter I've come before you to kind of share the upcoming athletics that are going to be provided that quarter, and due to COVID, we've had to make adjustments each time. So this quarter is volleyball. This is an amendment to the boys and girls volleyball guidelines. The focus will remain on the skill development of the athletes. Practices, scrimmages, and in-house tournaments can be used to develop their skills and gain play. 4th and 5th graders may participate as indicated in the handbook. The season will run from March 1st to March 19th. This has been extended by 1 week as compared to past years. This allows extra days in the event that the school would be closed due to COVID-19. Typically, there are 8 sessions of volleyball. This year, there will be a total of 14 days due to the 1-week extension, and they may use up to 14 days, but should not use less than 8. The week extension allows for large participant groups to be divided to attend different days for social distancing purposes. The volleyball will be instructed by building assigned coaches only. This year, in the past, high school students have been involved in the program, and they will not be involved to prevent cross contamination. Each athlete must fill out a final forms prior to participating, and as stated in the handbook, the sport may not practice when school is not holding in-person instruction. Friday, March 12th is scheduled to be an e-learning day, so practice may not be held that day after school.
Great. Board, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the elementary athletic handbook adjustment for volleyball.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Any questions or comments or concerns? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so moving right along. Next is resolution of House Bill 1005.
Yes, Board, and I will tell you, it's somewhat disappointing that I even have to bring this resolution to the Board. At some point, I wish our state legislature would actually step up and fund public schools adequately. But in a time when the governor of the state of Indiana came out with his teacher compensation plan that says basically the state has shorted public education over $600 million the last 10 years. Instead of addressing that, and trying to find more revenue for public schools and our teachers to increase their pay, they've instead decided to try to figure out how they could get more money to vouchers in private schools, which is very disappointing, to say the least. Most of you have read the resolution, and what they're trying to do in terms of expanding vouchers for private schools and directing more money into private schools, which will obviously hurt public schools. That's less funding for public schools. We already know we have a teacher shortage problem and a teacher pay problem in the state. And I will say, I don't know that I can sit here and say I'm against school choice. What I'm against is not adequately funding public schools. And public schools in the state have not been adequately funded for many, many years. And it's time for our legislators to step up and provide the funding needed for public schools. It's really disappointing. So I ask the board to approve this resolution that is against the passage of House Bill 1005, which is the voucher expansion bill, that the state is in the House and the Senate right now trying to work on. So.
All right. Board, do I have a motion for this?
Mr. President, I recommend approval of the resolution for House Bill 1005.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Thank you very much. We have a second. Thank you, Mr. Paul. In a second, we have a conversation we'd like to.
I'd like to make a comment. I am a product of Catholic schools, therefore private schools. I'm not from a rich family. I doubt we were even middle class, actually. But, I concur, Mr. Lochner. I'm not against school choice at all. What I'm against is public money going to private schools that some of those schools are connected to a religious group or church group, possibly religiously affiliated. And to me, that goes against the church and state or system. Even though I grew up going to Catholic schools, I just can't see public dollars going to that. That is a choice that we make to send our children to public schools, private schools. But I just, I can't see that. And here I sit as a board member in a public school system, and if I can't support, you know, the money's coming in, then I just don't think that would be right of me. So,
I have a comment. I believe this was all started, the vouchers and all of that, because the legislators looked around and said, well, low-income families can't go to these private schools, and to allow them some money to make up for what they don't have. Well, now, and thank you for providing this data, 90% voucher means they're going to get 90% of their tuition paid for families of four earning up to $109,000. And a 90% voucher for families of four earning up to $145 in 22-23. So if the family makes $145,000, the family of four, so I assume that's either a mother and three kids, or mother, father, or a father and three kids, or two kids and a mother, father. I'm just really troubled by that. Just really, you know,
It's more of a money grab by the wealthy than it is
yes,
a fix for
Yes.
something wrong with public education.
yes.
And
They're going to send their kids to these schools regardless.
That's, you know,
And I just think it's wrong that we take money from our public schools to support that.
Well, too, I think when you start talking about vouchers, I can give you a voucher to go to Notre Dame, but if you can't get there, you're not going to get it. You know, I mean, so I think there's something to that. Transportation's not provided, so the numbers are pretty scary on that, $109,000. Wow. All right, all those in favor, or unless there's any more conversation?
I got one more comment.
Sure.
I think superintendent did touch on it. It's not that, you know, anybody's necessarily against school choice. I mean, parents have had their choice to send their students to any school that they choose since I've lived in this state. Like when I first moved here in 1997, I had the option to choose a private school. I don't think there was any charter schools back then, but we also had the option to choose which public school we wanted to go to. So that choice, I hate that they call it school choice, but that parents have always had that choice, no matter what. The only difference now is like, you know, who's footing the bill for it. And instead of now those parents paying tuition, now we all are. And that's what's, you know, to me, like that is a funding for public schools that's actually coming out of our pockets and now going to private institutions. And that's why I'm against it.
I think you would find most educators that wouldn't have a problem with this if public education was being funded appropriately.
True.
And it hasn't been, you know, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel with the majority party right now wanting to do anything about it. It doesn't seem like.
All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. All right. We got that. Moving on here to our next action item would be the resolution for COVID-related vaccinations.
Yeah, this next resolution in support and in concert with our association, Mr. Felix, we fully support anything the state can do to try to get our teachers vaccinated as soon as possible. As we all know in this room, we were the first district in the state of Indiana to return to school in person, July 29th. Our teachers have been coming into buildings with kids since that day. You know, and we all would have hoped that the state would have valued that, at least at some level. You know, and that's not to say that we don't value the plan they put together in terms of putting the elderly and health compromised first and then getting the vaccine. But you know, many states at least put teachers that were 50 and older in that top group to get vaccinated. Ours did not for some reason. And once again, that's somewhat disappointing. You know, do we value our teachers in this state? Do we respect our teachers in this state? You know, and why weren't our teachers, at least the 50 and older teachers, put in that group at the top where they could get the vaccine quickly? So I ask the board to support this resolution. I turn it over to you.
Board, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for approval of resolution for COVID-related vaccines.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Conversation, discussion?
Well, what does Dr. Gazel say about it?
Well, he said it's from, the guidance is from the state, and obviously him and I had a conversation about the fact that the teachers in Kentucky were going to get vaccinated well before our teachers, and that was going to be a concern and an issue, especially here on the border. And it has been. Our teachers have seen teachers that live in Indiana but work in Kentucky have been able to go over there and get vaccinated already, both shots, and we're still waiting, and so he hasn't really stated how he feels. I think he tries to just keep his opinion to himself in that regard. Obviously, he wants to just get as many people vaccinated as possible, as fast as possible, but
Right. Where are we in the state, 60 and over?
65 to 69.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, our point of contention, with teachers and just all education, employees is that, that 50 and over, why weren't they put up there a little higher on the list? Especially knowing that many schools in the state are back and in person, while you have the state of Kentucky, where many of their schools still haven't gone back. They've been doing virtual learning, for almost a year. But all their teachers are going to be vaccinated before our teachers. So it's somewhat concerning.
Again, I'm on a school board of a public school, and if I don't back my teachers, what they need, then I might as well just resign. Go get on another kind of board. That's just the way I feel about it.
Well, when I look at this, we ask our teachers to go back to school whenever nationally, we make national news. So we asked them to go back to school with not really knowing what was going on. And I know it was tough for them to say, I'm going to leave my 2-year-old, and I'm going to leave my 5-year-old, and I'm going to leave my 13-year-old, and I'm going to go teach, and I might have 150 kids in my class that I'm going to be exposed to. Some remember their mask, and sometimes they drop down. These are good, but it's just nothing's foolproof. But I wanted to read a piece of an email I got that I was kind of puzzled with, and it says, I urge you to vote no on this resolution concerning COVID vaccines for teachers. Teachers work from home for months and now work at school with small class sizes. While we are all concerned about the virus, we know that it affects the elderly and the people with underlying conditions the most. Others may get it, but they recover in a few days and the symptoms are generally mild. Teachers are indeed important, but so are grocery store workers, drivers, delivery drivers, restaurant workers, factory workers, etc. I'm offended by people who think they should receive the vaccine above others, that their job is more important and should allow them to cut in line. The vaccine should be distributed by age group as it is now. I believe we are now down to age 65 and up, and that will soon go down. Teachers need to get in line like everyone else. If there's a teacher with an underlying severe health problem, they should remain home until they can be vaccinated. But all young and healthy teachers should wait their turn just like everyone else. Vote no to this very ridiculous and selfish resolution. Now,
I'd like to answer that.
okay, certainly. Being in education for 27 years in K-12, 17 of it in a classroom, a hands-on classroom. I work with kids on the same product, the same thing they were touching, I was touching it. If they sneeze, yeah, sometimes it just got on. I've encountered several kids in an altercation, nothing really vicious, but by the time you get in between two kids and one of them's yelling at the other one, somebody spits inadvertently, then they spit on you too. I've monitored a cafeteria with 200 kids in it, and food was flying around. I've seen that happen. The fact of the matter is that I know these other jobs are important. But I remember a situation where at the Franklin Square, where some guy said, hey, look, I'm not going over there because somebody over there tested positive for COVID. They were able to go home. You know, no, we sent our people home, we've done what the guidelines have said, but the point of it is that I can't think of, other than being a nurse, a more susceptible occupation than being a teacher. And for that reason, there's no way in the world I would vote for this. I mean, that's what I signed up to do, to help teachers, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Like, and the email does mention, you know, the word line, as if we're like, you know, all in a queue, line. The thing it completely omits is that teachers were in line. They were in phase 1B.
Exactly.
And through a change of mind, you know, public sway, I don't know, our state, our government, and our governor and our local government and state government has now removed them from the line and then scattered them throughout with the rest of us. Now, we can say that somebody went back on the word. We can say it was a change of heart. We can say that, like, oh, you know, they made a mistake. But let's not say that they were ever cut in line. There's nothing that a teacher has done that has been nefarious to, like, take somebody else's spot.
Correct.
So I want to get out of that way of thinking. But let's realize that they were in line. They were in 1B. That was where, I believe, what, police officers and nurses, you know, those officials were in first, along with, you know, people of a higher age group. And then next were people who were definitely susceptible to, you know, coronavirus, people who actually dealt in the public a lot, and that would be teachers. So, like, I have a real problem with somebody thinking that, you know, you know, that we or anybody else was holding teachers at this, you know, higher, you know, putting them above somebody else. When, in fact, I'm sorry, but when you look at the numbers, you look at the data, you look at how much interaction they have, they should have been there. So.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Any other comments, concerns? All right, all those in favor of this vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. All right. Public comments, there are none. Nope. So, board comments, if we want to start with Mr. Hawkins. Ms. Hutchinson? Mr. Paul? Mr. Freeman?
I gotta say, Kevin, you look a lot better this time than you did. Sit down a little.
I've talked too much already. Mr. Walker?
Well, two quick things. Number one, you know, the people that are watching or just the people out there in the community, you know, make sure you're paying attention to what's going on at the state level during this legislative session, and make sure you call your state representative. Actually, you know, the bill we just talked about, the voucher bill, is being co-authored by one of our local politicians that's trying to pass that bill. You know, so make sure you reach out to those state senators and state representatives to explain why it's not a good idea to do that they need to fund public schools first before they go down that road adequately, of course. Second thing, just a quick update like I've tried to do with COVID and numbers. Since we last reported COVID numbers on January 26th, we have added 31 positive student cases and 6 positive staff cases that required quarantine of 490 students. This brings our total for the year up to 131 student cases since July 29th, 48 staff cases since July 29th, and we've now quarantined 2,745 students from those cases. So, you know, the good thing is the numbers are starting to go down, you know, and starting to calm down a little bit. So, but our teachers, principals, and students are doing a great job of managing this and wearing masks and following the policies and procedures.
Okay, well, at the end of that time, adjournment, board, do I have a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Second. All right, thank you, Ms. Perfect. All those in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now adjourned.
Good morning.